Hello and welcome to the Dailies. One story dominated headlines around the world today: the start of a ceasefire in Gaza, marking what many are calling a potential end to the war. Today, we'll take a closer look at how Arab, Israeli and American media covered this historic moment. This is what global media woke up to this morning: a dramatic post on Truth Social by Donald Trump. In it, the US president declared that all of the hostages will be released very soon and that Israeli forces will withdraw to an agreed line as the first steps towards a strong, durable and everlasting peace. A message that signals, at least for now, what could be the beginning of the end of the war in Gaza. A short time later, celebrations erupted in Israel and Gaza. Families awaiting hostages expressed relief, and Palestinians flooded the streets in the destroyed Strip, celebrating what they are hoping to be the end of this war. Israeli media welcomed the ceasefire as a major diplomatic win for Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump, focusing on the hostage releases and troop pullback. They also announced that the American president will have a visit to Israel on Sunday, where he is expected to address the Knesset at Prime Minister Netanyahu's invitation. News reports also showed emotional scenes and relief across Tel Aviv. Some commentators warned the deal could be fragile, and right-wing voices criticized it as risky, and many outlets questioned whether Hamas would stick to the terms. The tone mixed cautious hope with political tension. But the Jerusalem Post outlines in its explainer a step-by-step implementation of the new Gaza ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. According to the report, the deal begins with Thursday's signing and an immediate ceasefire. Within 24 hours, the Israeli Defense Forces will redeploy to the Yellow Line, retaining control over 53% of the Gaza Strip. A 72-hour countdown follows that, after which Hamas must release all 20 surviving hostages at once. In exchange, Israel will free 100 or 1,700 detainees, Palestinian detainees, and 250 life-term prisoners, excluding key militants. Donald Trump is expected in Israel, as we said, on Sunday, with hostages possibly released by Monday. The piece emphasizes the precise sequencing and political spectacle surrounding this high-stakes ceasefire implementation. Yediot Ahronot reveals unprecedented images from the ceasefire negotiations in Sharm el-Sheikh, moments before President Donald Trump announced the Israel-Hamas deal. One striking photo, as we can see over here. These photos show Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed Al Thani shaking hands with Israeli Major General Nitzan Alon, an extraordinary gesture after weeks of tension between two countries. Other photos also capture key figures, as we are going to see now. They capture key figures from Israel, from Hamas, Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, and the US, including Trump's advisor Steve Witkoff, also gathered to finalize the agreement as well. As these images circulated, Trump was handed a note, as we also, by Secretary of State Marco Rubio during a press briefing, prompting him to break the news on Truth Social. Trump declared imminent hostage releases and Israeli troop withdrawals, calling it a historic and unprecedented event. Haaretz highlights a sensitive complication in the Gaza ceasefire negotiations. According to Israeli intelligence sources cited by CNN, Hamas may not be able to find or return the remains of all 28 slain hostages. The report includes estimates that suggest that between 7 to 15 bodies remain unaccounted for, reflecting the chaos inside Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu's government has reportedly known about this for months, raising questions about how it could impact the implementation of the ceasefire deal. Analysts believe Hamas might use this uncertainty to stall, while Netanyahu, under pressure from Donald Trump and other mediators, is unlikely to let this derail the broader agreement. The issue underscores the emotional and also political weight of the hostage crisis. Many Israeli outlets shed the light on the crucial diplomatic maneuvering behind Hamas's decision to accept the U.S. brokered ceasefire plan. The Times of Israel reveals that Qatar, Egypt, and especially Turkey played key roles in convincing Hamas that Washington could restrain Israel after the hostage release. According to an Arab diplomat, Turkey's late involvement was actually decisive, while Qatar's success apparently in extracting a Netanyahu apology over the Doha strikes boosted its standing with Hamas. Negotiators also finalized Israel's initial withdrawal details, including control of Rafah crossing. In a different piece, the Times of Israel further examines Turkey's growing diplomatic role in Gaza ceasefire talks, highlighting how its long-standing ties with Hamas have positioned it as a key mediator. President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who has historically backed Hamas and framed it as a resistance movement, sent a Turkish team to Sharm el-Sheikh at Trump's request to help push Hamas towards a deal. Since 2011, Turkey has provided leaders refuge, and also Hamas leaders specifically. They provided them with refuge and political support. Analysts note Ankara's unique leverage stems from years of hosting top Hamas figures and aligning with parts of the movement. Although Hamas has since balanced ties with Iran, Turkey remains crucial in this process. Its involvement reflects both geopolitical influence and Erdogan's consistent pro-Palestinian stance. Turkish media also highlighted the significant diplomatic role of Turkey in what it called a historic moment, as President Recep Tayyip Erdogan discloses that U.S. President Donald Trump personally requested Turkey to mediate with Hamas on the Gaza peace plan. Turkey today revealed that Ankara swiftly engaged Hamas, which responded positively, signaling openness to negotiations. He frames the Turkish president as a crucial step, contrasting Hamas's willingness with Israel's tougher stance. Now, the piece also highlights Turkey's ambitions to play a central role in a future peace framework, potentially through an international stabilization force. Erdogan underscores the urgency of a ceasefire and humanitarian aid, while fiercely condemning Israel's actions as planned genocide. Overall, the piece portrays Ankara as an assertive mediator and key player in US-led peace efforts. Palestinian media covered the ceasefire with a mix of relief and skepticism. Headlines highlighted celebrations in Gaza, describing it as a long-awaited pause in the war. Outlets stressed doubts over Israel's commitment to the deal and concerns about unresolved issues like hostages and detainees. Many framed the agreement as only a first step and not the end of the conflict. Ma'an Palestinian news agency outlines the core components of the initial phase of the ceasefire agreement between Hamas and Israel. The deal was set to be signed at noon in Egypt, immediately triggering a ceasefire, and Israel's cabinet was also scheduled to approve it at 3 p.m. local time, followed by withdrawal of Israeli forces within 24 hours to the agreed yellow line. Hamas will release 20 Israeli hostages, while Israel frees over 2,000 Palestinian prisoners, including 250 serving life sentences within 72 hours. The plan also includes daily entry of at least 408 trucks and the return of displaced Gazans. Israeli forces will withdraw gradually from north to south, and talks on the second phase of the Trump plan are to begin right after. U.S. media portrayed the ceasefire as a historic but fragile breakthrough, crediting President Trump for brokering the deal. Coverage focused on hostage releases, humanitarian aid, and the political significance of Trump's upcoming visit to Israel. The New York Times examines President Trump's push to secure a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas as potentially the most significant diplomatic achievement of his second term. It frames the moment as a test of Trump's self-styled image as a deal-maker and peacemaker, with the Nobel Prize or Peace Prize announcement looming. The piece also highlights how Trump applied unprecedented pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, forcing concessions amid global outrage over the war's destruction. It situates the deal within a long history of failed Middle East peace efforts, emphasizing both its symbolic weight and its fragility. While the agreement marks a diplomatic high point for Trump, the piece underscores unresolved challenges that could unravel the fragile truce in the coming months. Other global press shared this view, with The Guardian contending that President Trump's Gaza ceasefire deal could become his most significant diplomatic success. But it also warns that its fragility lies in the unresolved details. The analysis notes the first phase involves Hamas releasing hostages in exchange for a limited Israeli withdrawal, a step hailed as historic after months of stalled negotiations. Yet the piece highlights that key issues remain: Hamas's disarmament, Gaza's future governance, and Israel's compliance. The report underscores Trump's personal stake, including his pursuit of a Nobel Peace Prize and his forceful pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. It portrays a moment of his high stakes and political calculation, where a symbolic breakthrough risks collapse if not backed by concrete agreements and trust building between the warring sides. And we'll end with the Wall Street Journal's editorial titled "Immigrants and American Nobel Prizes." The article makes a strong case for how immigration fuels U.S. scientific achievement. Highlighting this year's Nobel Science winners, it notes that 3 of the 6 U.S.-based laureates, Michel Devoré, John Clark, and Omar Yari, are indeed immigrants. Yari's journey from refugee to world-renowned chemist embodies the promise of opportunity that has long defined America's innovation story. The article cites data that shows that 40% of U.S. Nobel Science winners since the year 2000 were foreign-born. The piece argues that restrictive immigration policies, especially under Donald Trump, risk driving future talent elsewhere. The editorial is both a celebration of immigrant contributions and also a warning that closing America's doors would weaken its position as a global leader in science and research. That's it for today. Thanks for watching.